Okay, chapter 6, we talked about using cash. Everybody had this participation, so make sure you're participating. We talked about using cash, sales tax, things like that. Chapter 7, we talked about using credit. We're talking about getting a loan, and there's a lot of different types of loans out there. Your study guide started talking about, you guys are getting to that age where you're going to start. I'm not saying you have to be at college. Put your cell phones up. College is not something for everybody, so you may or may not be, but you can get loans for coming to Great Plains or Career Tech or some other type of higher education when you graduate. Because guys, I hate to say, after you get out of high school, school is not free. Okay? If you want to go on to school after you get out of high school, you got to pay for it. And it's coming out of you or the government's check. You get loans, you can get whatever. But again, the study guide talked about FAFSA. That's something if you're going to go on to higher education, you might want to fill out. You get some stuff for that. But loans are something that, like credit, you're borrowing from somebody, but it's not as quick. Credit card, like we talked in chapter 7, it's spot, usually right then. Interest rates are a little higher. Credit, as in a loan, interest rates are normally lower and is more regimented. Okay, so there are two major types of loans you can get. One is a single payment loan. I'm going to borrow the money at some point in the future. I'm paying it back. It can be next week. It can be a week. It can be a month from now. It can be multiple years from now. One-shot deal. I pay it back. So the single payment loan is exactly what it says. It is a single payment. I'm borrowing money from my parents. I'm going to give that money back. Now, I'm not saying on a single payment loan you can't make partial payments. If I'm due to pay, if I borrow money from my parents, both my parents are dead, by the way. If I'm going to borrow money from my parents and I'm going to pay, I've got to have that money paid back by December 31st of this year. I can make partial payments all throughout the year, as long as when it gets time for the end of the year, I've got it paid off. Promissory note is exactly what it says. I'm promising to pay it back. It's a contract you sign. Now, most people don't do this for the parents. They suggest you do it with parents, because then you got a document. This is what I'm agreeing to pay back. Maturity value is if I borrow $100 and I'm going to pay back $110, the maturity value is $110. What I borrowed plus any interest or fees I'm paying back. Okay, and we already did this. This one is, there is a formula we're going to use throughout this entire chapter. And again, guys, I graduated from high school 40 years ago, so I can't remember the order of things when it was. I think this is, for me, it was junior high. They didn't call it middle school. There is a formula out there called interest. I is equal to PRT. I is equal to PRT. P is principal, what I borrow. Rate is the interest rate I'm being charged. And T is the time for the loan. Now, in this formula, T is always in years. Always. 5 years, 10 years, 1 year, whatever, years. But the problem is, especially for single payment loans, sometimes our loans are less than a year. It's in a month, it's in days, it's in weeks. So what you got to do is you got to figure out how long it is in time per fractions of a year. So let's say I'm doing a loan that's going to be 45 days. So the principal, I'm going to borrow $1,000. I'm going to do a 10% loan. And since this formula has got to be in years and I'm doing 45 days, what I'm going to do is times 45 days divided by how many days are in the year. Okay? And here's the rub. Banks hate things that are not level and even. They like stuff that's predictable. So they have come up with what is called an ordinary year. An ordinary year has got 12 months like a normal year, but every month has got 30 days. So 12 times 30 for an ordinary year, there's only 360 days. So if I'm using an ordinary, I would divide by 360 days per year. If I'm using what everybody else does, a calendar year, it's called an exact year, and it's 365 days. And this thing's starting to freak out here. 365 days, okay? So if I'm calculating, I need to know what type of year I'm using. And you're gonna have to ask your bank, what type of year am I using? And they don't just use it in here. Anybody ever use Netflix? Get Netflix? We haven't used it in a while, but when we used to use Netflix, we set up it come out of our account consistently, the same time every month. Well, the first time we said, okay, the last day of the month, the 31st. Next month, 30 days later, it'd come out on the 30th. Next month, the last day of the month is 31 days, but add 30 days. So it'd come out on the 30th of the month. Next month, 30-day month, well, what's 30? It'd come out on the 29th, 30 days later. And if I don't get paid till the last day of the month, guess what? At some point, I'm not going to have any funds in there, and they're going to be trying to get funds out to pay my Netflix bill. Because they do it 30-day months. Not all month has 30 days. So you need to pay attention. When you get a loan, when you get an automatic payment, are we doing this actual calendar months? Are we doing it your 30-day months? Ask for that. Loan also, okay? Good. Okay, question number one. Let me get this because the pin is being off injured more. It's kind of distracting. Okay, question number one. Parker Logan purchased a surfboard costing $600 and financed at 9% ordinary interest for 90 days. So remember, the interest PRT, I need interest, so the surfboard is $600. That's how much I'm getting a loan from the bank for. Interest rate is 9%, or if you don't want to use a percent, it's 0.09. They both work. Times 90 days is less than a year, so you got to do a fraction. 90 days divided by how many days in the year? Well, they're doing an ordinary interest. Ordinary interest is 360 days per year. So divided by 360. Okay, so 600 times 9% times 90 divided by 360 because it's an ordinary year. My interest is $13.50. So question 1A, interest is $13.50. Maturity value is equal to principal that I borrowed plus the interest I paid. So the maturity value is 600 plus 13.50, which is going to be $613.50. $613.50. Okay. What? $13.50 is the interest, and maturity value is going to be $613.50. This is A, this is B. Okay. And one more thing and then I'll let you guys get to work. Now, question number 3. Okay. How long would it take a construction loan for $548,048 to earn interest on? Okay, so again, the formula you're going to use for this entire thing is interest is equal to PRT. You'll plug in what we know. You're going to earn interest of $50,000. The loan is $548,048. The interest rate is 9%. It's asking how long is the loan? Well, I don't know. So we're going to just come up with a letter. We're going to say D for days, T for time, whatever. Come up with something. And to do that, you need to do, it's an exact interest, which is 365. So go ahead and solve everything that you got. $548,048 times 9% divided by 365. I'm going to give an extra decimal in there just for Haas. And then you got the D. How do we solve for D? Days. What do we got to do in algebra to get D by itself? What?
To get D by itself?
Yes, to give D by itself. How do you divide? How do you, well, I'll just say, how do you do it? You divide, right? You divide both sides by what's over to D. This cancels out. What's 50,000 divided by 135.135. And D, I get was 370 days. So put a dollar sign if we make it wrong, okay? So question number 3, the time for that loan would be 370 days. So again, now remember, ordinary is a 360-day loan, is a 360-day year. Exact is 365-day loan. If you got questions asked, that's all I got for you today. We'll do 2 more sections tomorrow, and okay, go for it.